My husband seems heartbroken. He sits in the living room at midnight, constantly checking his phone and smoking. I ask him what's wrong, but he doesn't respond. I glance at my phone and breathe a sigh of relief. Thankfully, my boyfriend isn't like this. Chapter 1. In the 5th year of my marriage to James, he seemed to have fallen for his mistress. He would come home, giggling at his phone, take 2-hour showers daily, and spray half a bottle of cologne before going out. But recently, he seemed heartbroken. He didn't use his phone or take showers when he came home. Last night, I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night and almost got scared to death when I passed the living room. He was sitting on the couch, motionless. If it weren't for the flickering light of his phone and the heavy smell of smoke, I wouldn't have known someone was there. Scaring people in the middle of the night, huh? He didn't even lift his head when he heard my voice. The ashtray was overflowing with cigarette butts. It was clear he'd been smoking all night. This was odd, so I quickly slipped back to the bedroom and sent a message to Sweetie. James seems heartbroken. Should I comfort him? The next second, Sweetie called, gritting his teeth. Do you think I'm gone? I quickly swore I wouldn't comfort James and let him be. Only then did he calm down. After hanging up, I sighed. My boyfriend is so jealous. Thinking about the last time he got jealous, my spine tingled. I decided to go back to sleep. I don't know if it was because of James, but I didn't sleep well for the rest of the night and kept dreaming. I dreamed James was holding a bouquet of pink roses, with teary eyes, asking me, Claire, will you marry me? Let my love accompany you through the years. I will always be by your side. The scene shifted to me looking at the lipstick stain on James's shirt collar, crying and asking him what it was and if he had done something to betray me. James impatiently took off his shirt and threw it in the trash. Maybe it got there by accident. Claire, stop being paranoid. I'm tired. At the hotel entrance, James was holding a young, pretty girl. I shakily took out my phone, called him, and asked where he was. He kissed the girl's forehead, not caring if I could hear. Why are you checking up on me? Are you going to cry, make a scene, and threaten to do something drastic? It's so annoying. I didn't want to dream about this, so I turned over and continued sleeping, but he was still there. Chapter 2. James, holding a cigarette, blew smoke at me, smiling coldly. Claire, don't you regret having only me your whole life? We were too young when we got together. We've been together for too long. I'm bored. Stop focusing on me. Go find a few boyfriends and you'll understand my joy. I couldn't understand, so I went to the beach alone to think about my relationship with James. The evening sea was cold, but I found it comforting. I wanted more water to cover my feet, so I walked a few steps further into the sea. Just as I opened my arms to enjoy the sea breeze, someone picked me up and ran back to the shore in a few strides. Before I hit the ground, I heard laughter around me. Way to go, Nick, saving the damsel in distress. Nick, you're a hero. After playing basketball all day, you still have the energy to carry and run. Nick, the guy who had picked me up, gently put me down. Only then did I see his face, dressed in a basketball uniform, his exposed muscles radiating strength and hormones. I didn't dare look too long and raised my head to meet his clear, bright eyes. The sea is dangerous, stay away from it. What a weirdo. I ignored him and walked toward a deserted part of the beach. I heard unhurried footsteps behind me. I couldn't stand it anymore and turned to glare at him. I'm not trying to drown myself. Can you stop following me? He smirked, his eyes full of amusement. Ma'am, the tide is rising. It's not safe here. The following dreams were all about Nick calling me ma'am as the tide rose. I was exhausted in the water, my consciousness fading, and finally, as the tide receded, I clung to the boy's strong back, trembling. I suddenly woke up to find James standing by the bed with my phone, his face dark as night. Who's Sweetie? Chapter 3. In my dream, Nick was calling me ma'am with a hoarse voice. When I opened my eyes, James was holding my phone, looking like he had caught me red-handed. If this continues, I'll have a mental breakdown. I rubbed my face, trying to wake up. Without looking at him or my phone, I got out of bed. Claire, I asked you a question. Who's Sweetie? Waking up to a wolf at night and having a mosquito buzz in my ear in the morning, do you think I have no temper? Who else could Sweetie be? My boyfriend, of course. James laughed angrily, grabbed my wrist and threw me onto the bed. He leaned over me, kissing the corner of my mouth, his hand sliding up my waist. I turned my face away, avoiding his kiss. He gripped my chin, forcing me to look at him. His gaze was cold as ice. What, are you going to stay chaste for your sweetie? I won't allow it. Claire, you're mine. Only I can touch you. His words didn't make me feel anything but a throbbing pain in my temples. I smiled slightly. Too late. You know, my boyfriend is young and full of energy. He was stunned for a moment, his jaw tightening. After a while, he clicked his tongue against his cheek and chuckled softly. Claire, don't try to provoke me. I know I've gone too far recently and haven't spent much time with you. You're very angry. I won't go anywhere these days. I'll stay home with you. You think I don't know you got dumped? What about your girlfriend? She's not as important as you. Besides, these young girls throw tantrums and break up all the time. It's too exhausting. You're still the best. I looked at him like he was an idiot, pretending to be helpless. But my boyfriend is more important than you, and he's very jealous. I need to go soothe him. The smile on James's face froze, and his expression darkened instantly. Claire, say that again. I pushed him away, standing by the bed, looking down at him, and repeated each word clearly. My boyfriend is more important than you. Chapter 4. After confronting James, I planned to hide away for a few days. Knowing his temper, I didn't know what he might do. Nick found me at a barbecue stand, drinking beer. He sat across from me, his lips pressed tightly, his face icy, gritting his teeth. Claire, you're quite something. It's just one day of not answering calls or messages. His angry look reminded me more and more of James, and it really annoyed me. I put down my beer bottle, cupped his face with both hands. Aren't you still my sweetheart? How could my sweetheart be mad at me? Only James, that dog, would be. He stared at me intently, making me feel weak all over. I backed off, thinking I couldn't provoke him anymore. Just as I was about to let go, he grabbed me and held me tightly around the waist. Before I could react, we were eye level. What are you doing? Put me down. So many people are watching. He glanced at me, his eyes dark and unreadable, causing my heart to flutter. I quickly shrank into his arms, playing the turtle. He couldn't help but laugh and walked away with big strides. Back at Nick's apartment, he gently placed me on the bed, telling me to rest while he made honey water for me. I clung to his neck, our noses touching, breaths mingling. His Adam's apple bobbed quickly up and down, and my throat tightened as I swallowed, kissing him suddenly. He groaned, his breathing growing heavier but still holding onto a shred of control. Ma'am, be good. I'll give you everything later. Drink the honey water first, or your stomach will hurt. Watching him, clearly aroused but still patiently coaxing me for the sake of my stomach, I sighed. It was clear my boyfriend knew how to take care of me. My fingers traced down his abs, and he helplessly caught my hand. Don't mess around. Nick, I don't want honey water. I just want milk. Will you give it to me? The next second, his lips and tongue captured mine, starting an intimate invasion. Chapter 5. Nick is indeed an athlete. By the end, I was so exhausted I couldn't lift a finger or speak, only able to express my dissatisfaction with soft hums. Sweat dripped from his forehead, sliding down his brow and landing on my collarbone, where a rose bloomed more vividly with the added moisture. Seeing this, his eyes darkened suddenly. Ma'am, one more time. My rejection turned into soft whimpers. The next morning, sunlight streamed in. The bed beside me was empty. I tried to get up to go to the bathroom, but as soon as my feet hit the floor, I collapsed. Hearing the noise, Nick rushed in, worriedly asking what was wrong. If looks could kill, he'd be dead 1,000 times. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. It's all your fault for being too beautiful. I lost control. There won't be a next time. There won't be a next time." I pushed his hand away and limped to the bathroom with what dignity I had left. Nick had made some pumpkin porridge and my favorite scallion oil noodles. He watched me carefully as we ate. "Just say what you want to say. Ma'am, we have a basketball game this afternoon. Will you come watch?" I instinctively refused. Nick looked like he expected as much, looking down, stirring his porridge absent-mindedly, like I was a heartless, fickle person. "I'll go. Eat your food and stop playing with the spoon." He immediately brightened up, excitedly talking about his basketball team's antics. I shook my head, smiling. What a kid. To avoid looking out of place among his classmates, I bought a youthful outfit, a gray pleated mini skirt, a white t-shirt with a teddy bear, tied my hair into a high ponytail, and did a light makeup look, making me look like an 18-year-old girl. As soon as I arrived at their school, I ran into James and his new girlfriend on the playground. James's face changed from smiling to frowning as soon as he saw me. I was worried he might have a heart attack from such mood swings. "James, who is she?" his girlfriend asked, her eyes flashing with jealousy. "Sweetie, I have something to take care of. You go back first." James patted the girl's head, speaking gently. I was thinking of a way to escape when Nick's laid-back voice came from behind. "Ma'am, you've barely left my side, and already you're attracting flies. How should I punish you?" Seeing James's horrified eyes, I felt weak in the knees. Was it too late to run? Chapter 6. Who is he? I was about to say I didn't know, but looking into Nick's pleading eyes, my heart softened. My words turned into, "He's my boyfriend, Nick." "Ma'am, who's this old man?" "My boyfriend, stop talking. Can't you see James's murderous gaze?" I blinked rapidly, trying to signal him. But he didn't get it and leaned in to blow on my eyes, his breath warm against my face. The scene from last night flashed in my mind, something gently tugging at my heart, each tug sending waves of tingling through me. "Ma'am, you're blushing." He chuckled, watching the girl he loved blush deeply because of his closeness. I glared at him. Being flirted with by someone 4 years younger was embarrassing. Nick hooked his finger around mine. As I tried to pull away, he naturally interlaced our fingers. I was about to say something when James yanked me behind him, swinging a punch at Nick. Nick, an athlete with quick reflexes, easily dodged. The two exchanged blows, going at it for several rounds. James's girlfriend, young and inexperienced, screamed non-stop. "Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Ah!" A crowd of students gathered to watch, some even recording on their phones. I was afraid of becoming a viral sensation, so I rushed to Nick when James was down, grabbing his hand. Nick looked incredulous, his face darkening. "You feel sorry for him?" I blew on his hand, rolling my eyes. "I feel sorry for your hand, idiot." Nick suddenly became spirited, smugly glancing at James, who was still on the ground. "My hand hurts. A kiss will make it better. James, your mouth is bleeding. Let me take you to the clinic." His girlfriend's exclamation made me pause, but I didn't turn around. "Get lost!" James suddenly roared, startling me. I signaled Nick to leave quickly. That guy was becoming more and more unpredictable. "Claire, come here!" Taking one step, I heard James call out. I didn't stop and kept walking. "Claire, your mom's heart isn't good. She's waiting for you to come home." Fine. Very fine. Extremely fine. Using my mom to threaten me, I held back. I tried to let go of Nick's hand, but he wouldn't let go, looking at me with a hint of pleading. I closed my eyes, not looking at him, and pried his fingers off one by one. "Nick, don't be childish." Turning to face James, I calmly said, James, you disgust me. Chapter 7. James and I were high school classmates. He was a top student and class president, handsome, from a wealthy family, and very helpful, making him popular among our classmates. As for me, I came from a single-parent home, with my mom working as a housekeeper for James's family. Before meeting me, he had never encountered someone from my background sensitive, stubborn, defensive, and prone to secret crushes. His mom told him, "Claire is very pitiful. Take good care of her at school." And he agreed wholeheartedly. So on my first day transferring to his school, he put his arm around my shoulder and told the class, "Claire is under my protection. Don't bully her, or you'll answer to me." The class laughed, and from then on, I was known as James's little tail. I liked him. I liked it when classmates called me James's little tail because it was a name that belonged only to me. I liked seeing him wake up with a bad mood but still force a smile and say, "Claire, only you can get me up this early for school." I liked walking on his shadow from the classroom to the school gate every day after school. I liked it when he rejected other girls' confessions and casually added, "My Claire would hit me." I liked it when he stared at me doing homework, blushing and flustered when I noticed. I liked it when he said, "Claire, when we go to college, we'll be together. No one will separate us then." But now, the person I liked was using my mom's health to threaten me. When did it change? Chapter 8. I went home, and my mom, seeing me, looked eagerly behind me. "Stop looking, he didn't come. Anyone who didn't know better would think he's your son and I'm your daughter-in-law." My mom hit my arm, scolding me. "Don't talk nonsense. If he were my son, I'd burn incense every day." My mom looked proud. "Why did you come back alone? Where's James? He hasn't visited in a long time." I casually picked up an orange from the coffee table, peeling it as I asked, "Mom, what do you think about me divorcing James?" My mom immediately threw down the cloth she was holding. "Why are you talking about divorce out of the blue? Did he mistreat you? I'll go find him." She was about to rush out, and I quickly stopped her, trying to keep my tone light. "Mom, James and I were too young when we got together. We didn't really know what we wanted. Now that I'm older, I realize I don't like his type. He's too controlling, it's exhausting." My mom was silent for a long time. Just when I thought she was going to tell me to endure, she said, "It's your life. As long as you're happy, I'll support you." My nose tingled, and I hurriedly lowered my head to eat the orange, tears falling silently. My mom's words gave me the courage to take a leap of faith. With my mom taken care of, I had no more worries about divorcing James. I took out my phone, dialing the number I knew by heart. When he answered, I couldn't wait to say, "James, let's get a divorce." "Claire, what did you say?" "I said I want a divorce, you cheating scumbag." I hung up before he could respond, feeling an immense sense of relief and laughing aloud. Letting go was easier than I thought. It turned out the only thing holding me back was myself. "Claire, have you settled everything?" I looked up sharply to see Nick about 100 meters away, staring at me like a loyal dog waiting for its meal. Chapter 9. I found it amusing and ran over to ruffle his hair, but he was too tall for me to reach. Just as I was about to pull my hand back, he lowered his head to meet my eyes. "Go ahead, touch it all you want." As I kept touching, things felt off. My hand had somehow moved to the corner of his mouth, and our eyes met. The smile in his eyes was impossible to hide. I decided to go all in, adopting a playful, rogue demeanor. "Let me check if you're thirsty." I leaned in and pressed my lips to his cool ones. We hadn't seen each other for days, and we both missed each other. His lips grew warmer, and I couldn't resist, letting out a soft moan. His body stiffened, and he sighed. "I missed you so much. I thought you didn't want me anymore." His voice was tender and emotional, which set my heart ablaze even though he hadn't said anything too provocative. Back in the car, He leaned over, filling the air with his mild soap scent. I kissed his moving Adam's apple, making him let out a sexy, muffled groan. I felt like I was on fire, the air in the car growing thinner until I could barely breathe. He lifted me with one hand, pulling me to cling onto his shoulders. Let's be together forever. A bright light flashed before my eyes, and I felt like I was floating. Back home, he placed me on the bed. My phone rang, but I was too exhausted to reach for it. He glanced at it and scoffed. I knew it was Matthew. I tried to get up to grab my phone, but he pounced on me. If you still have the energy, let's go again. I quickly pulled my hand back, shaking my head and looking at him with big, pleading eyes. It hurts. Damn. The sky lightened as the rain ceased. Chapter 10. I stayed in an apartment near his school for a few days. Matthew called me countless times, but I didn't answer until his mother called. Claire, you and Matthew haven't been home in a while. Can you come visit me today? I agreed because she had always been kind to me, except for when she started criticizing me after learning that Matthew liked me. When I got there, Matthew was already home. His mom took my hand. Claire, Matthew said you haven't been home for days. Where have you been? You and Matthew have been married for years. It's time to start a family. You can't keep running off like this. What will people think? The first sentence was concern, but the second was a reproach. Matthew stood by, saying nothing as usual. I was used to it. Mom, Matthew and I are getting a divorce. He probably forgot to tell you because he was busy with his girlfriend. Just don't say this to his next wife, or she might get upset and make him console her. Matthew threw his cup to the floor, shards scattering, some scratching my leg and drawing blood. He jumped up from the sofa. Claire, don't even think about divorce. You want to divorce me to be with some poor guy? Why? Would your mom have a heart attack knowing you want to divorce me for a poor guy? Slap. I used all my strength, leaving half his face swollen and red, his eyes burning with rage. Matthew, my mom already agreed to our divorce. You can't use her health to threaten me. Whether he's poor or not is none of your business, just like I never cared if your girlfriend was rich. If you don't love me anymore, why not divorce? Are you a masochist wanting one at home and another outside? Well, I'm not. If you want to play this game, don't involve me. I've wasted 10 years on you and don't want to waste another minute. Because seeing your face disgusts me. Chapter 11. Matthew refused to agree to the divorce, even going to my house and kneeling, asking my mom to persuade me. He said he was foolish, didn't cherish me, and sought excitement elsewhere but now knew he was wrong and would only be with me from now on. He also said I shouldn't find someone else, that I was only his, and he didn't care about my past. But I cared. He was not only unclean but also had issues. Big issues. I couldn't go home, so I planned to stay in a hotel for a few days. Nick found out about Matthew's persistence and asked me to stay with him. I asked how he knew. He said Matthew's girlfriend cried at school every day about her breakup and even confronted him, telling him to control his woman and stop ruining her relationship with Matthew. I finally understood why Matthew chose her. She had issues too. I needed to stay far away from them. Besides, I needed to find a way to make Matthew willingly divorce. Nick said he had signed up for the national team selection and had to go to Beijing in a few days. Will you come with me? I'm afraid I'll miss you too much to focus on the competition and lose my chance to join the national team. He held my hand, looking at me pitifully. I couldn't resist. He could be sweet and gentle or wild and passionate, and I never knew which was the real him. Whatever. I couldn't resist either. I couldn't refuse him. So I went to Beijing with him. Before leaving, I sent the divorce papers to Matthew's company, his home, and my home, so he'd see them no matter where he went. I wanted to show him my determination. I missed the last basketball game, but in Beijing, I saw how popular Nick was. The pink-purple sunset bathed the basketball court as he moved with agility and precision, like a predator. He made shot after shot. The stands were filled with young girls cheering and screaming. After another perfect three-pointer, he suddenly looked my way and blew me a kiss with his fingers. Look, he blew me a kiss. No, it was for me. He looked right at me and told me he loves me. I hid my blushing face behind a flag, afraid the crazy girls would notice, but I couldn't stop smiling. Was I handsome? After the game, he wouldn't let go of me, spending 2 hours in the shower. He kept asking if he was handsome, and I could barely speak. I told him he was handsome for 2 hours straight. Chapter 12. Our days in Beijing flew by. During the day, we visited the Forbidden City, feeling its deep history. At night, we enjoyed drinks and music at Huhai. When hungry, we shared hot bowls of noodles, savoring every bite together. Nick took me to the Great Wall. I refused to climb after a third of the way, but he crouched, signaling for me to get on his back. I hesitated, worried it was too far and he'd get tired. He seemed to understand, picked me up, and started running. I hugged his neck tightly, pressing against his back. The familiar soap scent on him made me feel at ease. I didn't know when it started, but every time I smelled it, I felt incredibly secure. Am I heavy? I asked, suddenly worried he'd find me too heavy. He dragged his voice. Heavy, not at all. You're skinny as a stick. You need to eat more, or people will think I can't take care of you. Who needs you to take care of me? He elongated his words, and I pretended to get down, but he held my legs tighter. You take care of me. You take care of me. Don't move, or I'll get hurt. In that moment, my heart beat only for him. We spent a wild and free week in Beijing, the happiest days I had in 5 years. If Matthew hadn't contacted me, I might have forgotten he existed. He called while I was winning a Linnabelle toy at Universal Studios. Seeing his name, I raised an eyebrow. Claire, when are you coming back? Matthew's voice was hoarse, like the day after he drank too much. Do you have something to say? Come back, let's talk. I think the only thing we need to discuss is divorce. You should talk to your girlfriend. I was about to hang up, not wanting to waste time on him. He seemed to know and hurriedly spoke before I could cut him off. Claire, I won't see other women again. I only want you. I thought you'd always stay by my side, no matter what. I was wrong. Please, for the sake of our years together, forgive me this once. We were so happy before, don't you remember? Did I remember? Chapter 13. 5 years ago, after Matthew proposed, everyone envied us. From campus to wedding, girls were jealous, wondering what he saw in me. Boys mocked him for committing to his first girlfriend. How did he respond? Screw you all. I'm not like you. Claire is all I need. If I hurt her, she'll cry. But within 6 months of marriage, he let his secretary tie his tie, bring him lunch, and take care of him when he was drunk. I remember coming home to see his secretary draped over a drunken Matthew. She stood up, saying provocatively, Miss Claire, don't misunderstand. Mr. Matthew grabbed me and wouldn't let me leave. The next day, I asked Matthew if he could fire her and hire a male assistant. He rubbed his temples and said, Don't be silly, Claire. Everyone has female secretaries. I can't make exceptions. One woman led to another, then a third. When I found out he had a serious relationship outside, I trashed the house, hysterically asking why. I'll never forget his eyes, disgusted, disappointed, regretful. Claire, I'm married to you. What more do you want? Stay as Mrs. Matthews, buy what you want, do what you want. Isn't that enough? I don't feel anything for you anymore. Being with you is like touching my left hand with my right. If you want, you can find a boyfriend. Then you'll understand. From 17 to 27, together 5 years, married 5 years for this. What was I holding on to? So when Nick showed interest, I just wanted to lose myself. And it proved one thing: Matthew wasn't wrong about young, energetic guys are great. They like young, pretty girls, and we like young, vibrant guys too. But Nick was different. Don't cry. I looked up, seeing Nick's pained expression as he gently wiped my tears. I told Matthew over the phone. You don't deserve to mention the past. Chapter 14. I rarely talked to Nick about Matthew. After a week together, Nick invited me to a team dinner. I was overwhelmed with the thought of being like Matthew, unsure how to handle our relationship. I lashed out. What am I to you? Why should I meet your friends? You know I'm married, right? You know why I'm with you? My husband told me to find a boyfriend to understand his joy. Why do young people get involved with married ones? Is that your belief? I vented all my anger on Nick, hoping he'd leave and never come back. He was silent for a long time, then said, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I won't bother you again. The next time I saw him was at a cafe, where Matthew's girlfriend confronted me. Matthew said he'd divorce you and marry me. He said if you don't agree, he'd set up a home with me and never return. Sister, clinging on is unattractive. I'm here to ask you to leave voluntarily. Don't degrade yourself. I laughed at her. Nowadays, people with any morals dare to speak out without fear of being hit? Girl, I'm not the one refusing divorce. If you want a title, talk to your Matthew. If he sets up a home with you, it means nothing legally. Nicely put, it's a love nest. Harshly, it's a mistress's den. Something I said struck a nerve. She got agitated. What do you know? The one not loved is the mistress. I know your mother was a maid with heart problems. You're only clinging to Matthew for money. Boom! Something snapped in my head. I couldn't hear anything else. I felt all my past with Matthew was a joke. That's when Nick appeared. Chapter 15. Nick picked up the coffee on the table and splashed it on the girl's face, his expression cold and stern. Get lost, or I won't mind hitting a girl. I heard him sigh, pulling me into his arms. My nose tingled and tears silently fell, soaking his t-shirt. After that, we entered a vague relationship. I needed him, and he showed up. He never mentioned introducing me to friends, dinners, or even dates. But I forgot he was like me 5 years ago, longing for love and recognition. What had I done, dragging someone so pure along for 3 years? Claire, how are you different from Matthew? You're different. If you could, you wouldn't do this. So, Claire, don't let go of my hand. Nick's heart ached deeply, almost suffocating him. Claire was such a wonderful girl, strong and brave, cute and fun. He couldn't imagine how she became what she hated through her past relationship. Thankfully, he met her. Thankfully, he wasn't Matthew. Back in South City, I gathered photos of Matthew's affairs over the 5 years and sent them to his mom, saying if he didn't agree to divorce, the photos would be public and I'd sue. I'm not sure what she did, but the next day Matthew agreed to divorce. Outside the registry office, Matthew clenched his fists, forcing a bitter smile. Claire, to be with a poor guy, you learned to threaten. Talking to him was a waste of breath. Thinking of Nick waiting for me to return for dinner, I turned to leave. Matthew grabbed my arm, eyes red with desperation. Claire, all men are the same. Now he's devoted, but after marriage, he'll get bored too. You're still so naive. Just because you're a scumbag doesn't mean everyone is. What happens to us is none of your business, dear ex-husband. Take care of yourself. Nick's clear voice cut through, prying Matthew's hand off and leading me down the stairs. Back home, Nick placed the divorce certificate on the bedside, nibbling my ear. Let's show the ex-husband how different I am. His warm breath made me shiver, spreading heat through my body, his hands still exploring. I whispered in his ear, lowering my voice. Good boy, you're the best. Watching his eyes darken with satisfaction. Chapter 16. I heard about Matthew again when I took Nick home to see my mom. While he was out taking the trash, my mom told me Matthew's girlfriend got pregnant and asked him to take responsibility. Matthew said it was impossible, he always used protection. At 4 months, they went to the hospital to check if it was his. It wasn't. Turns out she was still involved with her boyfriend from back home, who visited every month for 3 days. She didn't know whose baby it was since she'd seen Matthew right after her boyfriend left. Furious, Matthew hit her at the hospital, causing complications. She almost didn't make it and lost the ability to have children. After recovering, she reported him for attempted murder. He admitted everything and was sentenced to 5 years. His mom fainted from the shock, waking with no memory of anything after he went to college. My mom said his mom was pitiful and asked me to visit her. I neither agreed nor refused. If she needed help, I'd provide it, repaying her for hiring my mom as a maid and having Matthew look after me. But that's all I could do. I'm no saint and can't forget the pain she caused me. 3 years later, Nick became an excellent basketball player, and I became a successful writer. We married on the Great Wall. As he walked towards me, my eyes welled up. Claire, I decided to love you when you playfully splashed in the waves. I love you fervently and sincerely, in a way I've never loved anyone. When you wake up in my arms and call me good boy, I thought I couldn't love you more. But I think that every day. I've never been courageous, but you gave me courage. I love you, for no other reason than meeting you meant I was destined to love you.